Meantime, Joe Biden talking about whether he would choose a Republican as his vice president. These were the comments.
Our 21-year-old son said the other night, I wonder if Joe Biden would consider choosing a Republican as a running mate.
The answer is I would, but I can't think of one now. No. No, I'm serious. No, here's what I mean. Let me explain that. You know, there's some really decent Republicans that are out there still. But here's the problem right now of the well-known ones. They've got to step up.
The former Bush 43 speechwriter Annika Green, Real Clear Politics White House reporter Phil Wegman, and B. Riley Wealth Management Chief Investment Strategist Paul Dietrich. Hello to you three. Thanks for joining us. Happy New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year.
Absolutely.
Phil, what'd you make of that?
First of all, there are not a lot of Democratic primary voters who are clamoring for a Republican on the ticket right now. And also, there aren't a lot of Republicans who would clamor to be Joe Biden's running mate. Because if you remember, Joe Biden isn't exactly moderate. He's only moderate in comparison to the current field right now. And I think that if he was to make that jump, if he was going to try and bring on some Republican, if he could find one, there would be massive differences, not only on social issues, but also fiscal issues. I don't see how that would work.
Annika, you worked for President Bush 43.
Yes.
Do you think there is a Republican that would take Joe Biden up on his offer? I don't think many people take what Joe Biden said yesterday as something serious.
Right.
It is a campaign. It is getting close to the primaries in Iowa. But would anybody even take him up on that offer?
Okay, so I heard the comment. We know it's meaningless. But what about John Kasich? We know he refused to endorse Trump.
Right.
You know, if he could bring some support in the Rust Belt, particularly Ohio. Trump only carried Ohio by 8 points.
So you said maybe one. Did I translate that correctly?
He's the best
He's the best one.
Yeah, there's some others. You know, I was thinking maybe Mitt Romney, although he's pretty comfortable in the Senate right now.
Yeah.
Kasich just finished his gubernatorial term. He's looking for something to do.
What do you make of it?
I've got the answer. Michael Bloomberg, he used to be a Republican.
Yeah.
He would be able to fund the campaign at a level where the Democrats could actually outspend Trump, which nobody thinks can happen with the regular group now. He could be Biden's attack dog while Jovial Joe.
But he would also be second fiddle, and I don't think Michael Bloomberg, I don't know him, but I don't think he would be comfortable playing second fiddle after living the life that he has and building up what he has.
He keeps saying that his whole purpose is to defeat Trump. And, you know, think about this. You have two Queens, New York junkyard dogs, and they're going to go after each other, punch for punch, and Bloomberg can do that with Trump. That's going to be the best reality TV show we've ever seen.
It would keep the reality TV, some would say, going, as for what we've seen here with the last handful of campaigns and cycles, et cetera. Let's turn our attention real quick to U.S. Housing and Development Secretary HUD Ben Carson speaking with Lou Dobbs last night, addressing the homelessness crisis and who is responsible. Listen to these comments.
It's going to require, you know, the local authorities and the state to cooperate, stop throwing firebombs and wanting to actually get this thing done.
Phil, the blame game continues here to a very serious problem.
And this soundbite makes sense for the White House on a philosophical level and also on a political level, because philosophically, what's happening is the White House wants a federalist approach to this problem. They want local answers to this problem here. But it also gives the president a foil going into 2020, because what he can do is he can look to a national economy that is booming and then contrast that with what's going on in blue states.
Here's the thing, though. You say the White House's approach, and Ben Carson said it is not the responsibility of the federal government. When you go to HUD's website, Annika, HUD, and I quote from the federal government website, quote, HUD serves over 1 million people through emergency, transitional, and permanent housing programs each year. It talks about how it uses housing choice vouchers to help low-income, elderly, and disabled with private housing, money that eventually goes to public housing agencies, PHAs, and those PHAs are allowed to give preference to the homeless. So to say it is not the responsibility of the federal government, that's not what the federal government's own website says. And there's an issue there for Ben Carson, I think, with those comments.
There is an issue. He's trying to, I think, make a switch. And we saw what President Trump then said was, well, look, if the governors would ask nicely, then maybe we would increase Section 8. The way Section 8 works is the federal government gives money to the states to make up the difference between fair market rates and what a low-income person can supply.
And Bill de Blasio says that New York needs more Section 8 help from the feds. And when the president says that the Fed should jump in, should the feds jump in? Even more so, even though it is part of their responsibility.
You know, if you look at the statistics, homelessness is up 16.4% in New York. It's up equally in San Francisco. And at the same time, in the other 48 states, on average, it's declining. So two things are happening. One, either all the homeless are moving to New York and San Francisco, or in other cities, people are actually local mayors are actually dealing with this problem a lot more effectively than we're seeing in New York. I think it's a way to kind of shift the blame for failed policies up in New York and San Francisco.
Annika, Phil, Paul, got to leave it there for 1 second. Going to have you stick around. A lot to get to still here on Cavuto Coast to Coast. And of course, it's the new year, and there's going to be a little bit of partying tonight. And a new app lets users track their blood alcohol concentration levels from their smart devices. This is a new app that's out there. I was looking at it earlier today, and it basically says, like, I just had a beer, or, you know, I had a beer, it was this size, I had one of them, I had it, and here's an image of it. So you can see on the left-hand side what you drank, on the right-hand side how big it is, how large it was. I presume you put in your height, your weight, etc. On the face of it, it is a, I think, good idea, but also we have Uber and we have Lyft for a reason, and we should point that out on December 31st.
Absolutely. I mean, when I saw this, the one concern I had was privacy.
Really?
Right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's one of the things you see. There was a guy at the Washington Post, and he started tracking how much information is being gathered just from your daily use on your iPhone.
And then there's that new privacy law in California too that's going to take effect tomorrow, and all of these companies out in California are having to change. This app, what do you make of it?
Maybe this is why the teens aren't drinking. They're using apps like this. Probably not. But yeah, I shared a similar concern. I was toying around with it earlier on, and I think that
what do you have to put in there?
You have to put your weight and height. And I think that,
You give them your name?
No. But I wondered, where's this data going?
Right.
And the other thing is there going to be an individual who, rather than calling one of those rideshare apps, says, I'm a little bit buzzed, I can still drive?
Right.
Yeah, but the nice thing is about this is that you plug in the data. It's really easy to use, even if you're tipsy.
Do you trust it, though? I wonder how much
they have multiple, if you put in your height and weight and things like that, and they have multiple alerts that tell you when you've worked off and you have zero alcohol in your system. I don't know. I think it's good.
On this New Year's Eve, we should note the National Highway Transportation Administration says drunk driving claims the lives of 10,000 people each year. Something to remember, especially this evening.
Well, beer, we've had some great times. When I was 17, I drank some very good beer.
How'd they get video of me in high school and college? So brewers beware. Analyst Cowen is warning beer makers maybe facing some tough times as more drinkers are turning to spirits and teenagers are turning away from alcohol in general. Back with our panel here, we know that the drinking age is 21. Yes. We also know that teenagers drink, right? So let's just put it out there. But it's an interesting thought that teenagers now are moving away from beer, and that maybe these companies need to reposition themselves accordingly.
I think part of the reason is the beer industry itself. I mean, I blame it on craft beers. Have you ever tasted a craft beer? It tastes like it's awful. I mean, they have flavored beers, pumpkin beer, raspberry beer. I mean, no one want to drink two of those. So this is, I think, a major problem. I mean, have you ever tasted a craft stout that tastes better than Guinness? No.
I take it you're not drinking a craft beer tonight,
It's the worst stuff you've ever drank.
Phil, the other part of this is as the legalization or with cannabis, how there's this thought now that, oh, maybe it might not be as bad as we once thought it was. That teenagers are now moving to that more and away from beer less, and that's one component of this, with all of the legislation that we've seen all across the country.
Well, first of all, I'm with you. I think that we're going to look back at the 2010s, and we're going to think, why were we drinking all of these IPAs? I think they're going to go out of fashion. But yeah, we know that Gen Z, just like disco, Gen Z, they're more risk averse, and I think that they're seeing that there are other options for them to get their kicks. Beer's on the way out, and other vices are, more profitable for them.
Annika, be honest, you ever had a seltzer? Because that's part of it too now. White Claw and Truly and all of this stuff is starting to take up market share.
Look, I'll be the first to admit that's what you drink when you're at the beach and you want to keep a buzz going and you don't want to be, out by 11 o'clock. But, we know that beer's an acquired taste. It always is. I never acquired it. So, I think maybe the younger generations are just being more honest about the fact that it's not very good.
I think there's a health issue, too. I mean, especially with younger
calories
people,
and all that.
Calories, and there's a reason why they call it a beer belly.
Yeah. We'll get to calories and what people might be thinking come 2020 in a second. Looking ahead, the new year, could it be a new you, as 4 out of 10 Americans are planning resolutions which include improving their financial situation, eating healthier, and being more active. I was surprised that improving your financial situation was only 51%. I thought it would have been much higher than that.
I looked at the top 5, and spending time with your family and friends, that's always more important, especially personally, and not doing it just through text. But one of the top ones was saving more and investing more for their retirement. And as an investment manager, I think that's a great idea.
What can people do? Like, what's the easiest thing? If someone says, I want to save more money next year, what's the first thing you would tell them?
Financial advisor.
If they can't afford it.
Robinhood.
If they can't afford it, they're probably not putting any money away for investing for their retirement.
You say Robinhood.
I say Robinhood. It's easy to use. There's not commissions. They give you these little newsletters with snacks. It's very interesting. It's a good way to learn about the market.
Yeah. Phil, when you saw those numbers, did it surprise you more that it was basically on the same plane as I just want to be healthier?
It surprised me a little bit, but I think that this is sort of, the White House's New Year's resolution, which is that they want that economy to continue to buzz. They want a strong economy going into 2020, and their resolution has to be get USMCA passed, and they are hoping that these trade deals will continue to keep things hot.
Well, that's almost a formality in the Senate, right? I mean, all we've heard for the USMCA is one Republican Senator, Pat Toomey, who has said that he wouldn't vote for it, and we're assuming all other Republicans would be on board with this, right?
That's true. It's a formality, and the question now, though, is scheduling because of impeachment. They want it sooner rather than later.
You think it'll what does that scheduling look like?
That's anyone's guess, but we know that McConnell has said that he's going to work hand in hand with the White House to give them the impeachment trial that they want. If they want to go longer or shorter, it's their prerogative.
We sit here in Washington today. Annika, what do you think Washington's resolution should be?
No more sad news. I think this, we have a lot of good news coming out of this last year, and I think people are tired of negativity. So, I mean, maybe look at the headlines and write them a little softer.
Well, Phil, what would your Washington resolution be?
For me, to spend more time in Iowa and New Hampshire. But I agree. I think some positivity with both, of the parties preparing to go head-to-head in November in 2020. I can't believe we're even saying that now. It's real. But some positivity would go a long way.
Paul, I'll end it on you here.
I agree with them, but I think we need to spend less.
Personally or government-wise?
Government-wise for Washington.
Right.
We need to lower the debt.
Right. We'll leave it there. Paul, Phil, Annika, thank you both for joining, all three for joining us. Happy New Year, too. I'll start by saying Happy New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year, which is like how we started.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Yes, you as well.